All right, nerds, we have a bit of a nerd rant to get on, and this one has to do with Brian Cox. This is taken from the main episode over on the main channel, but I think it's still something to try and cut down to a short because this is too funny to not talk about. Brian Cox is a person. Brian Cox, you'll recognize him if you watch Succession. He was the dad. He's the one that they were trying to succeed. He also was the original Hannibal Lecter in the Manhunter movie, and if you're really paying attention, he was the original William Stryker in the Marvel franchise, in specifically the second X-Men movie, X-Men United, X2, whatever. So he was at a convention, not a comic book convention, not a nerdy convention necessarily, but a film convention because he's an artiste. He was at a convention and started ranting. Ranting might be a strong word, but having strong words about the current state of cinema and how it's drowning and how it's not long for this world, largely because of the Marvel and DC and those kinds of movies. That's a paraphrase, but it's pretty close to actually what he said. And then further on down the road in this same conversation, he mentions that, well, he was a part of this back in the day, so he really is the one who gave birth to, like, he created Wolverine, so it's partially his fault that Wolverine is a thing, because Wolverine and Deadpool is huge right now. So it's partially his fault. And then he continues that line of thinking and says, they don't even pay me the money that... I mean, again, I'm paraphrasing, but he thinks he's owed money for creating Wolverine. I don't know if Brian Cox is doing well. That's not how intellectual properties work. You didn't create anything, bud. You played a character. And need I remind you, it's a character that existed long before that movie did. That's a character that existed since like the 70s, I want to say, is when William Stryker made his first appearance in comic books. Might have even been a little bit earlier than the 70s, but at the very least, I'm pretty sure it was the 70s. So you're looking at about 20 years or so before X2 happened that this character existed. And this character, who was created by a writer for the comic books, is the reason why, kinda, sorta, in the comic books we have Wolverine, kinda, but also the writer of the comic book is the one who birthed Wolverine, and he's the one, or his estate at the very least, is the one getting all of the royalties every time they use Wolverine. Really, I think it's actually Marvel getting the royalties because of their really shady business practices when it comes to rights and who owns the rights for characters that are created under the Marvel umbrella. If you are a writer and you go work at Marvel and you create an awesome new character, when you signed your contract to work for Marvel, they took your ability to use that character anywhere else. They took all of your ability to monetize that character for yourself because you did it for Marvel and therefore it belongs to Marvel and not to you. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. Brian Cox. This is just sad. We got the Scorsese conversation, which was a better conversation to have because that is the mainstreaming of art. As, I mean, like, it happens to all forms of art. It happened to movies a few times at this point. Happened to comic books in the 90s. It happens to music, depending on the genres you listen to. It kind of goes, it's very cyclical when it comes to music. And it always happens with the visual arts. It comes in waves with the visual arts. So, like, yeah, that's a better philosophical conversation to have about the cheapening of art or the oversaturation of a specific style or something along those lines. But to say that all movies are dying because comic book movies exist, and then also trying to say you're owed money for the existence of these comics is just old man crazy. Like, Brian Cox is an amazing actor, and I really wish he hadn't done this because this just makes me look at him and laugh now. Oh, okay. Yeah, rant over. That's done. Let's go on.